Welcome to another edition of the Clock End Talk podcast. Yes, I'm back. It's all about me tonight, gentlemen. I'm back. It's Darren Daddy Gooner replacing Tez, who's on his holidays. And, well, as well as regular Tony. Hello, Tony.
Hello, how you doing?
Yes, very well, thank you. But you know that because you've got a crystal ball. And we have Schwinn. Blimey, Schwinn, when were you last on the pod?
Wow, it has been a while.
See, if you'd have said last week, it would have been good because I haven't had a chance to listen.
That would have been easy. No, I haven't listened in the last couple of weeks either, actually. I mean, the football hasn't been great, so there's that, obviously. But yeah, just been busy. And yeah, it's been a couple of months, so yeah, back as well.
So, since we last talked, there was like a little sickness going around the world. How's that affected you, Tony?
Ruined my life by making me extremely bored at all times. I know that's probably going to annoy people because some people are taking it a lot more seriously than I am, but I just want to go back to the old normal. I want to go to football. I want to go boxing. I want normal. I want normality. This new normal is not cutting it for me.
Because you go boxing you do it a lot, don't you?
I've been doing it from home, but it's just not the same. Because we do it basically via a Zoom call. And he says do 10 press-ups. When you're at the gym, you do 10, you might do 11 to try and show off. When you're at home and no one's really watching, you do 5 and think, fuck that, and go and open a pint.
And what about you, Schwinn? How have you coped with lockdown?
Yeah, it's been horrible, hasn't it? I mean, I'm sort of with Tony on this. I mean, for people who are in our age bracket, it's not that serious. And I respect the fact that it is for quite a few, but I didn't fit that category. Well, I wasn't trying to call you old, but okay, let's go with that.
No, I guess I was a little bit more at risk than others, being ancient at 54 fucking years old. I'm not dead, you know. I'm not.
54, that's it. I thought you were, I mean, you look like 64, but that's good.
No, all been good. All good at mine. I've got to say, from a football point of view, I mean, Tony, I'm with you. Going to football's, just been great for me since I come back from India. So I love it, and it's been such a miss. But I don't know about you. I went the other way. I didn't want the season to start. I was fed up. I think because we had such a poor season, because I didn't have the enthusiasm. I thought, there's a lot more things going on in the world, and really all these overpaid footballers. Do I really care anymore? And I was really worried as an individual, because I've been going to Arsenal since I was 6, and I was really worried that I'd lost that enthusiasm. Fuck me, is it back? As soon as that football started, and as soon as you see what we're doing now at the moment, I'm so pumped up about watching football again. What about you?
It's weird because I'm terrible at watching football from home because I never really do it. It's been a long time since I've really watched football at home. And so I was kind of feeling a little bit similar, like, am I even going to enjoy it? Am I going to be able to watch it? And then obviously we got Dick versus City. We was never in the game. And I had that, this is nonsense watching from home. I can't watch this. And then the Brighton game, even though we lost, there was a bit of fight. Obviously the Leno injury and the handbags at the end. And it suddenly became like every emotion I feel when I'm at the game I got that when watching on TV. And I've not really had that since I was a kid, just because that was the only way I watched when I was a kid. So I kind of agree with you. It did take a game or maybe 2 to get back into it. But yeah, now it's not like I'm at the games, and it never will be. But that emotion runs through me almost the same.
Yeah. I mean, Schwinn, you're only a part-time supporter who never really bothers with the football most weeks anyway. Have you noticed that the season started again?
Yeah, I mean, are you going to be taking shots at me the whole time today?
No. Sometimes Tony's going to talk.
For me, I didn't miss it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have quite a bit going on academically these days in my life, so of course there's that. But I didn't really give a fuck about what was gonna happen. I mean, I was hoping that the season's just gonna get wrapped up somewhere or the other, and Liverpool don't win the title. But obviously that hasn't transpired. And I think yesterday was a turning point with the quality. Wolves actually was a turning point because the football became visibly better. And I think even for the team, there would be a serious confidence boost looking up the table that we can beat someone who's better than us because it hadn't picked up the way it did till then. And yesterday was another, step in that direction. So The enthusiasm did creep back in yesterday. And it's been really good, I'd say, for the last couple of games. Let's just hope we can carry it for the next 4 games left in the season and the FA Cup, of course.
Doesn't it show how far our expectations have dropped? Where we're mentioning a win against Wolves as if it was a win against one of the top 6 against
the team better, aren't they?
Been, you know,
it's
I mean,
not about expectations.
They're good,
I
but they're a team that was just come up into the Premier League. They're nothing, you know, and now they've surpassed us. We're really excited that we're winning away at Wolverhampton Wanderers.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have that sort of entitlement, and I'm not accusing you of it. But I know there's some historical context within your Arsenal fandom, which is missing from mine, for example. But I just feel that, I mean, I saw a question come in and sort of jump the gun on that. But someone said that, you know, doesn't it say that we're arguing about a result against Leicester, that we cannot hold our own in the last 15 minutes? But it's not about that. They've had a better season. We're not playing a Leicester from 15 years ago. We're playing a Leicester that is better than us right now. And that reflects in the table.
That's my point. Look how far we've fallen. You know, that's how far we've fallen. We're Arsenal. We shouldn't be worried about Wolverhampton Wanderers or Leicester at home, but we are. You know, we've taken 4 points from those 2 games, and we're all thinking, yeah, that's all right. It is. Just to tell you, I just had a message on Twitter from one of our podcast listeners on Twitter, Goulson fan. Replied to the fact that I was on the podcast tonight, said, awesome, good luck, good job that the clock end has a strong squad, go easy on Schwinn. I didn't even remember we had history, Schwinn.
Apparently.
So where do you want to start tonight? I mean, do you want to talk about this Leicester game? I can't remember how you do this podcast. What do you used to talk about the squad that came in? I mean, overall things, Tony, are you as happy as, I mean, isn't it fairly obvious we're good for about 60 minutes because we've played more games than anyone at the moment, and then we're fading drastically, but we're so better organised at the back now, the results are better. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think the main thing even throughout the game is that we're better organised. I mean, you look at even the amount of shots faced and what you're not even just looking at the stats, but what you deem as clear chances when you're watching against us. And there's not many. I mean, you look at Leicester yesterday and you think the disallowed goal was obviously disallowed for a reason. Then the Iheanacho volley is a half chance. Vardy swiveled on one in the half chance, and then the goal. And that's 2 half chances and a goal, which is a proper chance. And you look at us earlier in the season, and then we was giving away 15 half chances. So I think the organisation is massive and probably one of the most underrated things. It looks like visibly we're playing better football, and as Schwinn said, he's got the enthusiasm back because of the sort of brand of football we're playing. But the organisation had to come first. I mean, there's players playing that I wouldn't pick in the positions they're playing, and I'm not a fan of at all. But like, I mean, who would have thought that Kolasinac at left centre back would have been basically faultless 2 games in a row against 2 teams that are above us, and as you both just said, better than us this season. And there's not a single thing where you can go, fucking get him out the team. What's he done there? And then on the other side, you look at Mustafi, and who's.
I was going to say, Mustafi and David Luiz, we'll get to those.
Yeah, I mean, they're in with an argument for being maybe not our best player in both games, but if you have the 2 games combined, they're definitely, you have to mention them. And like I said a few months ago, pre-madness world, you'd been looking at that team thinking, no, I mean, I know there's a question, and I'm not going to get onto it now, we'll answer it then, but about Mustafi signing, would you want Mustafi to sign a new contract? And a lot of people's answers will be very, very different to what they were in February.
Absolutely right. There's a very interesting stat. I'm not going to be able to quote this exactly, but I can get the emphasis across. It was a stat I heard on a podcast a day or so ago. Emery and Arteta have now played equal amounts of games this season. You know, managed equal amounts of games this season, 17 each, I believe. And I think goals scored are within 1 of each other. You know, I think we've scored 1 more goal than we had under Unai Emery, but we've conceded half the amount. And that's what you're talking about, Tony, that organisation. That's where he's made us better, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think that stat it was before yesterday I saw it, but we'd have had to lose our next 8 games in a row to get the same points tally, which is madness. Like, it's crazy. None from the next 24 and they'd have had the same points tally. It's something like that. But yeah, I mean, the organisation has to come first. It gives you a foundation to build from. And I've always said for a long time, when people are talking about buy this defender, buy that defender, when the system's wrong, I don't think it overly matters what player you've got in there. You get a system right, and you can look very good. I mean, no one would be calling out to sign probably any of Burnley's defenders, but I know Pope's got the most clean sheets this season, and they don't. Maybe when they do concede, they concede 2, 3s, and 4s, but in general, they're a solid back line, and that's what Dyche does. I think system is the most important thing, and thankfully, it seems like Arteta's identified that.
So, Shwin, have you watched any of the football so far since the return?
That's a rhetorical question, isn't it?
No, I was just checking, because I was going to say, let's talk about some individual. What have you made of Emil Martinez since he's come into the side?
I was just about to mention him. I mean, of course, Kolasinac, Mustafi both deserve a shout as well, but he's been very good. You know, he's been on countless loan spells. I mean, at Reading, Sheffield, I don't know where all he's been. And you know, that's the thing with a goalkeeper, isn't it, when you're a backup, that you just have to switch on at a moment's notice and then possibly stay switched on for a few games. And I think he's been very good. Made some good saves. His footwork and positioning is really good. I'm no goalkeeper expert by any means, but from what I've seen, it's very good. He has a range of passing as well. I think on a couple occasions, he's successfully played in behind when teams are pressing us forward and pressing us high. And I think it was against Wolves maybe that he almost played Aubameyang through. So he's got a few things up his sleeve, and I think he's been confident. He's been calm playing against attackers like Vardy. We saw yesterday that he was quick to rush out of his box and clear the danger. So he's pretty aware of things going around him. And overall, I'd say I feel secure. I don't feel that there's a backup goalkeeper behind our back line, which can obviously be pretty erratic. But I don't feel that sense of nervousness while watching us play. Yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, his handling has been so good. I mean, we always knew, Tony, we always knew we had 2 good goalkeepers. And I think Leno's taken a long time to win people over. And he's, been exceptional this season. He's been a great player. But Martinez hasn't put a foot wrong, has he, Tony?
No, look, and Martinez, I always knew, and I spoke many times on here about how good his kicking is, but his shot stopping has always been dubious, and I never really knew about him coming to handle crosses. His coming for crosses has been great, his starting position has been great, his shot stopping has been excellent. Like, you can't blame him for any goal, or even like half, maybe it's just that there's been no fault of his. Look, I don't know, if Leno's fit tomorrow, Martinez keeps his place.
Agreed, absolutely agreed. He's the man in possession now, isn't he? I mean, and that's only going to be good for the club, to have 2 good goalkeepers. And Leno's not very old, so Martinez, he must just be wondering. He's been 10 years waiting to be number 1. He's finally got his chance, and God, has he taken it with both hands and holding it.
Yeah, I think the summer could actually kill him, because, as you said, you're in possession, but then the summer, everything sort of becomes blank again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if this was at the start of the season, then he carried on performing like this, they'd struggle to get him out. But in the summer, does it revert back to type? And we'll wait and see. But as I said, I think he's been excellent, and he's kicking. And my biggest problem with Leno has always been his kicking. I can't doubt his shot stopping. But Martinez's kicking is so far ahead of it, and it just makes it seem so much easier to play out from the back, which we're obviously intent on doing.
Is there any news on Leno's injury, by the way? Do we know what it's going to be? Is it a matter of weeks, or is it longer?
Yeah, I think they said 6 weeks when they done it. I think it was one of them, if we get to the cup final, it'd be sort of 50-50.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play in the cup final, even if he's fit.
No, neither do I. But I think that was the sort of time frame that he would be in and around then.
So let's get back to the game yesterday. I mean, the talking points. I mean, we played some beautiful flowing football in the first half. Really good all round. Hard to pick anyone out. And Ceballos stood out for me as one of those Burnley games where he ran the game again. Shwin, Ceballos for you. I mean, I guess where I'm coming from with this is that he's had very few good games this year, but he's also been dropped by one manager, wasn't fancied by the other to start with. And this is his first real run of games for me since almost the start of the season. Has he done enough for you to warrant the conversation about him staying at the club?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I agree. Yesterday, the first half, collectively, I think was one of the best halves of the season, and certainly perhaps the best half since football has resumed. And he was a big part of it. And I think to add to that, in this new system, he works really well with Xhaka too, which helps because we've seen Guendouzi and Granit don't quite work as a pairing. And just like center backs, sometimes you need your central midfielders to also have that sort of tandem relationship. And this seems to work. So keeping that in mind, that probably warrants a yes. But there's a lot more going on, isn't there? I mean, you have to look at the price tag. You got to think about what else will this affect. I mean, Arteta clearly fancies Willock, and maybe there's a future for him in that role. I'm not quite sure if I'm convinced just by a couple of games, which have been good for him. So there is still a few games to test him out and see whether he is, that cog that's going to fit in there. But if I had to make a decision today, I'd probably say no.
No, Tony?
Yes, it's a really tough one because it's sort of changed all the time. He was excellent against Burnley and then pretty much done nothing since. And I'd say probably the last, since Brighton, since Guendouzi got dropped, because he played with Guendouzi at Brighton and City, and I just don't think anyone can partner Guendouzi, and I've said it forever because he doesn't do anything on either side of the pitch. But since then, he's come in and he's been great in all the games since then. And I mean, yesterday was a masterclass in the first half. It's what you want your centre midfielder to do. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, it'd have been a no, sort of, I don't really care about the price. Now we'll sort of see how these next 4 or 5 games go and then see what the price is. Because if he's going to play like he has done, I mean, yesterday was exceptional, but in the 3 or 4 games as a whole, he's been very good. And if he's going to play at that level, you can't not want someone like that at the club. So it sounds well reactionary because I'm basing it on the last 4 games. If I look at the last 40 games or however many there's been, granted he hasn't played them all, it would definitely be a no. But the level he's shown in the last few weeks is you can't turn that sort of player down. It is strange though because as Shwin said, he partners Xhaka perfectly, and you often look for pairings that will suit each other. But when you look at their actual skill sets, you think, well, neither of them are really quick, neither of them are great defensively. Ceballos is better in a small space, so they've both got decent passing ranges. But you think that there's too many similarities. It's amazing that it does work, but for whatever reason, it does.
You mentioned Xhaka there. Is that the biggest transformation you've ever seen from all aspects? From that day where he wandered off the pitch, getting booed off, throwing his arms in the air, looked like he'd never play for the club again. Then we got a new manager, has talked openly that he should be, he's captain material, that he's a leader in the dressing room, he's a leader on and off the field. And is he redeemed himself fully in your eyes, or do you think he still should be out of the club at the end of the season? Because that was sort of the feeling.
I personally, I never thought he had anything to redeem, or the tiniest amount. Look, I mean, you're there as well. I think the fans gave him way too much abuse every week. He didn't even have to do anything wrong. And our fans do it with players, and I'm not excluding myself from that. And for me, and I'd like this with a lot of players, if you make our team better or you're in the best 11, which I've always believed Xhaka is despite his shortcomings, you should play pretty much. And that's how it is for me. To be honest, I still think he should be captain.
Yeah, me too. What about you, Shwin? Is that all 3 of us, or?
Yeah, I would say so. I just want to echo what Tony said. No, there's no reason to redeem himself. I mean, despite what sometimes we do, we are human beings, and when players are pushed like that for basically no reason, you expect them to lash out because you want to see they care. Right.
Okay. So, all right. It's a good time to bring that in. It wasn't where I was going to go with this, but it's good to see they care. And yet, I bet the 2 of you haven't got a good word to say about Matteo Guendouzi, who obviously, he's the one player who was fighting against Brighton, had players by the throat. Isn't that spirit? Doesn't that show that he cares?
I mean, for me, I'm a Guendouzi fan, and I like the kid. I think going for the throat was a bit of an exaggeration from his perspective. He shouldn't have done that. But I don't mind getting in someone's face as an Arsenal player and and trying to stand your ground, I don't mind that.
Haven't we
Not an issue for me.
complained again and again and again that there's no one in our team who's got any fighting spirit? The kid shows some fighting spirit. I'm not going to talk. I mean, we'll talk more about. He's obviously got some problems. He's obviously mentally, I'd say, damaged in some way. He's obviously got a strong attitude, and if he's upset the previous manager and this manager on more than one occasion, and he's also upset the management at PSG and at Lorient. So there's some flaws in this young man. But the way I'm reading it from everybody at the moment, that there's no future for him at the club anymore. Do we just give up on him?
Well, I think, sorry, if I can just
sure.
quickly button on that. I mean, there's a couple of things there, right? One is that with the new manager, he needs to stamp his authority, and sometimes it's collateral damage. So I would understand Arteta taking sort of like a blanket approach for people who are just defying the new authority. And I would include Mesut Ozil in that as well. So for me, I understand that. But it's beyond the pitch. It's what happened in Dubai, and it's what's sort of happening behind the scenes as well. So as much as a fan I am, if the new manager needs to set the tone, and players like Guendouzi and Ozil, who I am very fond of, both of them, if they have to fall by the wayside, they fall by the wayside. I don't mind that.
Okay, so you're happy with this, like Mesut Ozil? We're paying £20 million a year to him in wages. We can't afford to buy us. We could easily afford him if we'd have got rid of Ozil, or he's not even in the shop window because no one wants to play him. Tony, go on, come back to me on Guendouzi.
Yeah, I'm maybe skewed by the fact that I've never really rated or liked him. I don't mind the fighting spirit, and I think you're completely right. We do lack that, but then it's when you show it. Fighting spirit isn't grabbing someone's throat after a game. Like, that's nonsense.
Didn't he run the North London Derby? Was it last year?
He had a very good second half in the North London Derby. I'm not saying he's useless. He's had games. He won us the game against Villa as well when we won 3-2 with 10 men. 1-0 down with 10 men, went 2-1 down, still had 10 men, obviously. And he won us the game. I'm not saying the guy's shit. I don't rate or like him. He has ability, but I'm saying it now because I'm watching on TV. I've seen games where Oxlade-Chamberlain won us the game, and every single one of us was happy to get 40 million for him. And if we get 40 million for Guendouzi, which is the figure that's being spoke about, I'll be delighted.
I feel it's almost racism against him, though. If the French are a race, I don't know, they are, aren't they? It's. I think if he'd have come through our academy, we'd all love him, all of us. If he'd have come through and played for us.
You both touched on it. He's pissed off 5 managers in a row, 2 at our club and 3 at previous clubs. He's not been allowed to train for the last 2 weeks because he won't apologise. And as Schwinn said, that a manager's coming in and saying it's my way or the highway. He can't let that go. He can't then go, actually, I'll let it slide because you've got talent and you could be something in the future. For me, it's not helped by the fact that Guendouzi's not a star player. He doesn't suit any of our midfield partners, which has always been a problem. So you can't have that attitude. And look, it's nothing to do with fighting spirit. I agree. He's probably got more drive than any of the other midfielders. You could argue Xhaka. But that's not enough. And as I said, I don't think fighting spirit is grabbing someone after the final whistle when for the last 45 minutes you've basically not been on the same pitch as them.
So how do we rate Mikel Arteta? I mean, I was very much on record to say that it was a strange appointment for me. I think they're the words I've always used. It was a strange appointment to employ someone with absolutely no managerial experience into a huge job of managing the Arsenal. Results have been, I mean, if we can look at since he's come in as a whole, have been fairly indifferent. I support him because
I don't know after yesterday, but before yesterday we'd have been third in the league on just his results.
Yeah, really, is it that good a record?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm very, very surprised at that.
Well, we hadn't lost until Man City, and then
yeah, we did draw pretty much every week, didn't we? We got the most draws.
I think we hadn't really won away, but we'd won pretty much all of them at home, apart from Sheffield United off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, from my point of view, I support him anyway. He's managing our club. He'll get all of my support until, like, even with Emery, I did until you just get to a point. Schwinn, are you really pleased with his appointment?
Absolutely. It was the appointment that was always going to be made. Well, that had to be made, and I think then the brass chickened out when it came to replacing Arsene Wenger. That's when this was supposed to happen. And I think it was too bold to jump from Arsene to someone like Arteta. And we went through the period that we did with Emery. But I mean, having seen what we're seeing, having heard from the players what we've heard, there seems to be a clear direction. There seems to be plans in moments over periods of a game, over different games. I mean, there seems to be so much more clarity that the players are getting in communication. And this is nothing against Emery's English, but the general sense of what we're going to do across the season, across different games. And this is not just me; it's what the players are saying, right? I think that was a picture of Emi Martinez's comments that was doing the rounds on Twitter the other day that spoke to this. And you can see that. You can see that in the performances. You can see that across the different players. We've heard from David Luiz recently, Kieran Tierney, and that sort of reverberates. So for me, it's the right appointment. It needs time to manifest, to unfold. We're hearing from different journalists what he's been doing behind the scenes to acclimatize himself to this role at the club. And I'm all about the project. I've already signed up.
What's he got against Rob Holding, Socrates, Ozil?
Socrates isn't good enough at football. And it's horrible. Obviously, we're used to centre-backs who defend, head it, kick it, get rid of it. And Socrates is brilliant at that. But he tried him, and the guy isn't good enough at football. I mean, I think we all knew that anyway. For me, he's probably our best one-on-one or just solid, as I said, defender, tackle, kick it, head it. But that's not enough anymore. Holding is a surprising one because I said on here a few weeks ago that for me, it would have been an audition for him. I would have played him in every game, fitness allowing, and said, sort of go and prove that you should be here next year. He gave him two games.
He's played everyone ahead of him, hasn't he? He's even got Kolasinac.
He gave him 2 games, and for me, he was pretty good. I think it was Southampton. He was excellent. And then did he play? And then he came on against Sheffield United and done okay. Nothing great, nothing wrong. I don't blame him for the goal. Some people do. And then he's not had a sniff since. So maybe Arteta's already made his decision that he doesn't want him there next year. I don't know. But as I said on here, that it would have been, for me, would have been an audition phase for him. But Arteta sees differently, and he obviously knows what he wants. But what he's got against him, I don't know. Maybe he's not good enough.
Are you disappointed that he hasn't got the Ozil situation sorted? Is his inexperience against a top player like Mesut Ozil showing?
I don't know if I can say inexperience, because as much as I like and will defend Ozil where I feel it's needed, experienced managers, you'd call Emery experienced, or Wenger was certainly experienced, and they've had whatever the issue is with Ozil. What's most disappointing for me is that he played every minute pre-locked or every game pre-lockdown. He was in our top 3 players every week. The team was looking much better with him pre-lockdown, and then suddenly something's presumably, or I would say obviously, happened whilst we were off. I just hope it's not the wage thing. Not that it matters what the reason is, but it's just frustrating as a fan to know you watched a team that were better, and then they've dropped him for whatever reason, and I assume a valid reason. But it's just frustrating. I mean, I don't think anyone's buying that it's a back injury again.
So they're the players he doesn't like. You know, I've mentioned Ozil.
This is what's weird. I feel like he does like Ozil because he played every minute of him I don't think it's a footballing reason. Where I said with Socrates, I think it's a football reason. I don't think there's any personal thing. He just doesn't think he's good enough as a footballer. Whereas with Ozil, I feel it must be personal, because I don't think you go from playing almost every minute, like you're getting dragged off with 10 minutes to go against Chelsea when you're down to 10 men, to not playing a single minute and not even being in the squad for 6 or 7 games now.
Let's look at, I still will stick on Arteta. His substitutions, I'm just going to bring up 2 examples from the top of my head. Bringing on Ainsley Maitland-Niles as a left back or a left wing back, and taking off, was it Tierney, I think, in that game?
Yeah.
And last night, when there's, I don't know, whatever, plus the huge amount of injury time, and he takes all of our attacking players off and sits and holds on. Were they good decisions? I was dumbfounded by the Ainsley Maitland-Niles one.
For me, I was the same as you, but what I will say is Ainsley was fucking superb.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was exactly the same as you. I can't pretend to be like, nah, it was genius. Hindsight's made it genius. He was excellent. And I don't know if he felt, because Ainsley dealt with Traore completely differently. He was up his arse. He didn't let him have a touch. Whereas Tierney was sort of letting him get in the ball out of his feet and showing him to the byline and making sure nothing was dangerous. And there's nothing wrong with either approach. But Ainsley's one worked better. And whether he felt like Tierney didn't have the energy or ability to do that at that point in the game, I don't know. So I'd say it's a tactical substitution that worked out brilliantly. But looking from the outset, when I saw Maitland-Niles sort of getting stripped off to come on, and then I assumed Cedric because it was his first start, and then you see sort of Tierney's number go up. I was, what are you doing? But
absolutely. And last night at home with 10 minutes to go, all right, we're down to 10 men, but 10 minutes to go against Leicester, wouldn't you at least have one fast attacking option up front so we could possibly hit one on the break and win the game in what was essentially a must-win game for us last night?
Well, I mean? Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Pepe was on the bench. He's clear he hasn't trained all week. He didn't train at all, so I don't. He's not usable, so I don't know why he was there. Aubameyang's race was done. He couldn't move anymore, so I wasn't surprised he came off. Obviously, they moved Willock up front, height, and he's a bit leggy, and it showed he had a good chance. Not chance, he had a chance to run at their defender in the area. So then you look at the bench. I don't know, was Nelson on the bench? And you could maybe argue him, but at that stage in the game, is Willock a better option because he can hold the ball up? I know he's not an attacker, but he's quick enough and he's physically better than
just seemed like strange decisions making to me. You're right, Ainsley Maitland-Niles substitution did work, although it was just incredulous for me that he did that. Last night, it just upset me that, even though we were under Kosh a bit, give them something to worry about. Rather than stick everyone behind the ball.
If you accept that Aubameyang's race was run because he was gone, what change would you have made for him?
I would have put Pepe up front. I know he didn't train a week, but he's a professional footballer, and he's. I'm sure you could have got 10 minutes out of him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been on the bench.
Yeah, that's my issue. Is more why was he on the bench? If he's fit enough, yeah, I completely agree with you. If he's fit enough, but I got the impression I don't think he even warmed up, to be honest.
So let's talk about some of the players that Arteta does like, Schwinn. David Luiz. I mean, I'm a Luiz fan. I'm a Guendouzi fan. We'll get on to Lacazette in a minute. But, David Luiz has just signed a new contract, and reading between all the bits and pieces, it's because Mikel Arteta wanted him because he's good in the dressing room, because he's, he thinks he's great as a player. Schwinn, are you pleased that David Luiz has signed a new contract?
Ask me in a couple of months.
No. The podcast has to go out tomorrow. It's no good doing it that way. I'll write you a letter. Send you a stamped addressed envelope.
Sure. I mean, look, if if the reports are to be believed, then we don't have too much money, apparently, which seems to be the case every summer, or every window at least. And if that's the case, then sure, let's put a Band-Aid on this one and revisit it next summer. I see the logic in it. I'm just not a fan of the guy. He has a presence, and he flies into challenges and commits his body. Both things that I respect. But do I feel secure when he's back there? No, I do not. I'm not confident that he can lead us to a top 4 finish, or even make a deep run in a European tournament. He's got flaws, deep flaws, I'd say, and a lot of them are not about ability, but about his decision making, and that's something you cannot grapple with, in my opinion. So, not the biggest fan. I mean, I trust in Arteta, and I trust in what he's going to try and get out of him for the next year. But is it something that is going to solidify us at the back? No.
Tony, aren't we just mad as football fans? We've got David Luiz, who's reached real big heights as a footballer throughout his career, adds huge experience to a very young squad. Got a mistake in him as his career winds down and he's getting older. But wouldn't you jump at the chance to have somebody like that in your team rather than Callum Chambers or Rob Holding?
See, this is where I differ from what Schwinn said, and I think I'm probably more in line with what you're thinking, that if I see a back three, in the middle of that back three, Luiz is my first choice. I'd rather see him than any other, he's never really look. Yeah, he has concentration lapses, as we all know, but he's never really been a problem in the middle of a back three, going back way before his time at Arsenal. As I said, if he is as good as around the dressing room and whatnot as everyone says, giving him another year, he reduced his wages. I can't see a problem. I mean, I don't know if you two listen, but everyone after the City game hammered him. I don't want to see him play for us again. Blah blah blah. And I was never on that. Look, you accept with David Luiz he's going to make mistakes, and is he the guy you want if you're challenging for the league or even top four? Maybe not, but it's a sign of the times and where we are. An experienced guy that's going to make us be able to play out from the back both short and long, which is something we massively need. You'll notice every goal kick ends up going to him, not so much with Martinez, but still a lot. Every time we go short, it ends up with him because he gives us the option to go short or long with decent accuracy.
He can ping a ball. He can ping a ball 50 yards like almost no one else in the team.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not his biggest fan, but I'm a fan of him. This year, he's made a mistake or two. He got rash sending off. He looked very rusty, and I guess that happens when you get to his age a little. But fuck me, let's just enjoy the fact that we've got somebody like him in our football team. One more quick thing I just want to bring up, Tony. This is more relevant to you because you, like me, are at the Emirates quite often. Wasn't that last night the best atmosphere I've heard an Arsenal game for so long? Did you have the sound on with
Yeah,
Sky?
I've been watching all games with crowd noise, and at the start it was horrific. But now they're getting quite good at it. The only thing I will question is there's no. I mean, it's weird actually. I don't know who's choosing it because there's been no home bias. The Arsenal fans have been great in every game. I don't know where that's come from.
I was watching it with a mate of mine last night who's not really a football fan. He's sorry, that's wrong. He's a big football fan, and over the last couple of years he's really got into Arsenal. And he watched it with me last night, and we had the sound up loud, and I was trying to explain to him, this is not right. There would be so much that last 15-20 minutes, it would have been nervous, it would have been quiet, there would have been oohs and ahs every time we gave the ball away. But those fans last night sang and sang and sang as if we'd won the cup final.
I think the difference is it's continuous, whereas not just us, I know our home support especially isn't great, but the sound is continuous, whereas any football team is not. There'll be moments of song and moments of murmurings or silence or just applause, whereas with that, obviously, because it's an audio track, it's just continuous. Like the songs are being sung non-stop, nothing's happening and people are singing, which is just not what happens at football.
And I love it, the fact that they're getting better, as you said, like when somebody goes, who was it? I can't remember what game it was. One of our players got substituted after making a rash tackle. I think it was the Brighton game. And the booing from the crowd, from the Brighton fans, was incredible. It was just spot on.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, because I noticed we've already been going far too long already. Should we get onto the questions? I've got a couple of things I really wanted to talk about.
I don't know, just because I've not read the questions, there's obviously 2 or 3 major incidents from yesterday's game that need to be spoke about.
Yeah, I just thought that because I haven't seen the questions, do they not come up in the questions?
I don't know. I can check now, but I've not looked.
All right. Well, look, we know what we want to talk about, the sending off, and so that was quite one of the points I wanted to bring up. Let's talk about it now then. Eddie Nketiah comes on within a minute. He's made a challenge and was sent off after a long VAR review. Schwinn, I know you're a fan of VAR. For a start, was it the right decision for you?
Not at all. Too harsh. Way too harsh. I mean, you can tell that the kid only has eyes for the ball. You can tell that the VAR looked at it 8, 9, 10 times, and Chris Kavanagh walked to the sideline and watched it once or twice. I mean, it's just so harsh. It's as you said, Darren, earlier, that it's such an important game, right, for both sides. And you make that sort of a decision, you got to be completely sure. And I'm not saying Chris Kavanagh wasn't sure, but it's just the wrong decision, and it's inconsistent with what's happened previously in the game with Jamie Vardy booting Mustafi in the face. It's inconsistent with what we've seen across different teams, across different games. I mean, the problem isn't VAR. The problem is just referees still making the wrong decisions.
Tony?
I think it's a very, very unlucky red card. Look, I fundamentally disagree.
Red card or not?
Yes, but very unlucky. I don't think VAR should be allowed to show replays in slow motion. Everything looks worse in slow motion. It shouldn't take that long. If it takes that long, it's not clear and obvious. If you have to watch it from 15 angles for 4 minutes, it ain't clear and obvious, which is the guideline for the rule, not for offside, but for fouls. He's been a bit unlucky because he's gone for the ball, and James Justin has turned side on to protect the ball, which is fine. And Eddie's ended up going into his lead leg. If JJ stays square, which is what he was, then Eddie probably nicks the ball. And then, as I said, the main gripe is consistency. I mean, Vardy's is a red all day long. I actually don't think he meant it, and I think Vardy meant it, and a lot of people do. But it literally does not matter. The rule is endanger an opponent. Intent is not in the rule book anywhere. And if you're telling me 2 studs an inch from his eye, leaving marks on his face that are still there today, isn't endangering an opponent, I don't know what endangering someone is. So Vardy's is a red. And then, I don't know, people, I assume they would have seen it by the time they listen to this. Tarkowski's not been sent off today for a tackle that's very similar to Eddie's, but much worse. And it's gone yellow card. VAR's not even checked it. There's been no delay. Like, I know they say, VAR's continuously checking everything. But when it's an incident like that, it comes up. VAR checking serious misconduct or whatever. It says serious foul play. And then they check it and they tell the ref what to do. And I was actually talking to ESPN's VAR guy yesterday, and he was saying that basically by the time they've gone over to the monitors, the decision's already made. Like the VAR said to them, this is a sending off, go and look at it. And that's why he only looks at it for a second, because he's basically already been told what to do. If you remember earlier in the season, they wasn't going over to the screen at all. They were told what to do. Now they're told what to do, but they go and look at the screen as well. So for me, it is a red, just about. But the consistency just kills you. As I said, in the same game, Vardy's incident's not even looked at. I don't even think the ref gave a free kick. VAR didn't show any interest in it, and there was a natural stoppage in play, so it wouldn't have killed time. Not that matters. And then Tarkowski's one today is just ridiculous. Less than 20 hours after, and completely different punishment.
Agree with you on that one. You've just sent me the link. Thank you very much. I've just seen it. So yeah, that was the Tarkowski one. It was definitely very difficult to say. Schwinn, completely disagree with you. I thought it was a very easy decision. It was a definite red card yesterday on Nketiah. I agree with Tony. I don't think he meant it. I think he was a bit unlucky. But when you go running at pace with your foot extended out in front of your stud showing, and you catch someone high up on the knee, it could have broken his leg easily, could have put him out. If that had happened to one of our players, we'd have all been screaming that it was a definite red. I slightly disagree with you, Tony, on Vardy. I know you were saying endangering an opponent, but Mustafi's head was on the floor when he kicked him. And I think if that was kicked at a head level, but it was as they both fell on the floor, his studs caught him. I'm not saying that Vardy didn't mean it, because I think he's that sort of nasty cunt, and I think it probably did mean it, and it probably was a red in that way. But I can see why they didn't give it, because I think the players...
why they didn't check it.
Yeah, I think if they checked it, I think... if you take the player's personality out of the way, we're saying Nketiah didn't mean it, but it was a bad foul. Vardy, I think, possibly did mean it, but you could get away with it because both players are clashing, and it happened as they landed on the floor. I think there was an excuse not to. But
I think if you check that and pull it under the scrutiny as Eddie was, and as I said, I think Eddie's was a red card. If you put that under the scrutiny and show it from 8 angles with slow-mo and look at it for 4 minutes, everything gets worse. As I said, I don't think they should be allowed to do everything in slow-mo. And as I said, I hate that football's being micromanaged. But the fact is, it is. And if you do that to the Vardy challenge, I can't see how it's not a sending off. And I agree with you what you're saying. Mustafi's head low is probably shin to knee high. It's not on the floor. But the rule is endanger an opponent. Nothing else comes into it. Him kicking him in the head, that's
but you could just say it was his natural momentum as they went on the ground, is what I'm saying. I'm saying that they could argue the case that if he didn't mean it, then it is an accidental challenge. His leg caught his face when they were on the floor, Wow. Schwinn, just one thing, the other thing you said, VAR showed it a lot of times. The referee looked at it once or twice. He looked at it once and thought, fuck, it's a red card. Very straightforward decision. Anyway, should we move on to the questions? Who's going to read them today? Because I haven't even got them in front of me.
The other incident, the offside for the goal, because I know me and Schwinn differ on this anyway.
Oh, okay.
What do you think?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
It's one of those that VAR's sort of irrelevant for me. It was a goal. If they take that long looking at it and they're not sure, then it's a goal. It's a goal. It's a goal all day long. Take VAR out of it, it's a goal. Linesman's giving it. It was so marginal. You can look at it 100 times in slow motion. There might have been a little flick off his boot. He might have been marginally offside. It's nothing. If you've got to look at it 100 times, it's a goal. Let's play. It's a football. It's attacking sport.
I know Schwinn partially, pretty much completely agrees with you. I don't, because I don't think it's marginal. I think he clearly touches it. I think Perez clearly touches it, and Vardy's clearly in front of him. The only doubt I had at first is I thought Vardy was behind him, and the replays, the angles they were showing on Sky Sports were horrible. You couldn't see when the ball was touched, so you couldn't see if he was in front or behind him. But once you see the angle that Vardy's in front of him, I think it's a very, very easy decision.
I couldn't see touch. I couldn't prove whether he touched it or not. It's frame by frame, and it was very difficult. And you're slowing it down again and again and again.
As I said, I hate that they do that, and I'll be the first to say I can't stand that they're micromanaging football to within an inch of its life. But the fact is,
in which case, it's a goal. It's a
No,
goal.
but that's what they're doing. Just because I hate it, I might hate that someone gets sent off for headbutting someone, but that's the rules. And so if they're gonna micromanage it within an inch of its life, for me, they've got to get it right. And I think it's clear he's touched it.
Schwinn?
I said my only doubt was I thought Vardy was behind him because of the angle on Sky Sports, and seeing it again from a proper angle, he's clearly in front of him. It's not even close.
Schwinn?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't see the touch, and I'm not saying that there is no touch. I'm just saying I don't see it. I looked at that snippet that Tony sent me, which was like a zoomed in version of the ball, crossing Perez, and I didn't see it. But I'm not saying that it isn't there. I just don't see it. I'm not saying Tony's wrong, but I didn't see it. My eyes did not capture it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, my problem with the whole goal was how easy it was to get a cross in, and how we had about 19 men in the box and we couldn't clear it. That's more of an issue for me. It was a goal, but you see lots of goals in football like that, and it was a good goal, well taken. Can we get the questions now? We've been on forever. Who's reading them?
Oh, I'll get them up 1 sec.
So good atmosphere yesterday. Lots of talking points. What's going to happen in these questions? Are people happy? I'm happy. I'm so happy to be watching football again. There is not a single player in that team, a single player who's played for Arsenal this year yet that I'm unhappy with. When do we say that? I know you two probably have got lots you're unhappy with, but I really haven't found anyone that I'm unhappy with. They've all given 100%. They're all working hard. Love Lacazette. Love Lacazette.
Don't get me started. Golson fan, who obviously you mentioned earlier, do you think the recent improvement in defence can sustain, or how many new defenders are needed? Who has to be shipped out?
Do you want to take that, Schwinn?
Why don't you go for it?
Well, it's we know this Saliba's coming in, who's obviously the best defender that the history has ever seen. So I think Arteta's trying to manage our opinions, balance that he's not going to be the be all and end all. I like David Luiz. I'm glad he's there for another year, and I think he'll gradually exit out as we create a new defence. But it's looking quite good to me. I think Tierney is starting to show now with the run of games injury free that he looks exceptionally good. I've always liked Holding. I think he's a real footballer in there, but Arteta doesn't like him. And obviously, if we could find one more just to go with, I think Socrates is out of the club. Callum Chambers, if we mention him, is not going to be there. So it leaves us with room if we could just find one more to go Saliba, Luiz and Mari. But Mari we only saw very briefly, but he looked a decent player. I think something that Tony said, we've agreed far too much on this podcast already, Tony. But I agree with what he said. If we've got a manager that actually can organise whoever he puts in there, that's the difference. And we're just starting to see, aren't we? Tierney looks really good one side. Bellerin's improved a little bit since he's had some competition. David Luiz, Mari, it might just be pretty good.
Anything to add, Schwinn?
Love Kieran Tierney. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, fully paid up member of the KT fan club.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said.
I mean, I know you probably talked about it on the podcast, but just lovely things like him turning up with his Tesco bag, arriving at the ground with his Tesco bag. For those of you who aren't listening in this country, Tesco is a big supermarket chain in this country. And he turned up with all these ever so rich, fancy footballers with all of their fancy wash
Louis
bags.
Vuitton wash bags.
Yeah, and he turns up with a Tesco carry bag. And I love the quote. Did you hear when he was asked what he thinks of living in London? And he said, "I don't know. I haven't been. I go home from work, I sleep, I get ready to work the next day." What a lovely quote. You've got to love him.
It's funny, he said that ages ago, but since
Yeah.
he's been playing well, people have it's been regurgitated.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did say it early on, but it was when he was recuperating, wasn't it, that he said the quote. But just love him. Love him, love him, love him.
Yeah.
Did you see the other one? Did you see the picture? I mean, go back again when all the players all hooded up because gloves, scarves, hats, because it was freezing cold, and he was in short sleeves and a t-shirt.
Yeah, but I mean,
shorts.
without, he's Scottish. I mean, the weather up there is not the best, and that's coming from an Englishman. Where the weather here isn't the best, but Scotland's a whole different level of bad.
Yeah, great signing, really good.
Yeah. MAA Gunner, I think the first of about 55 questions. Do you think we would have held on if Eddie didn't get sent off, or if Vardy did get sent off? No crustal balls allowed. MAA Gunner's spelling has got horrendous over lockdown. He needs to get back to school. Like, them school being closed has fucked him, because he had a question a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you heard, and 3 of us read it and we didn't have a clue what it said. So we had to carry on. Go on, Schwinn. Do you reckon
What was
we'd
the
have
question?
held
I've forgotten.
do you reckon we'd have held on if Eddie didn't get sent off, or if Vardy did?
Yeah, we would have held on. I mean, if Vardy had gone, then the whole complexion of the game would have changed early on, and we would have probably bagged another 2. I mean, we should have bagged another 2 easy anyway. But if Eddie was still there, I think we would have hung on.
Darren?
Don't know. I mean, it's it is one of those that we are just guessing. It obviously changed the mindset of the team. It changed Arteta's mindset, and we were already starting to slip in the ascendancy. We were starting to go backwards. So I think what happened is it stopped us having an out ball to try and hit them on the counter attack. And I think there's that. It took away the chance of winning the game. So yeah, who knows whether we would have held on or not, but it certainly stopped us winning the game. Tone?
Yeah. So yeah, I think we win the game easily if Vardy goes off, as Schwinn said.
Oh, Vardy, yeah, that's a different matter.
That's the only thing you sort of really have to worry about with them. The Eddie one, I don't know, because I know he'd only been on a minute, but the sort of last 10 or 15 minutes of Lacazette the ball had been coming back, and I think that's why Lacazette went off, because he was no longer holding up the ball, and not really his fault. The ball wasn't getting to him. But then we bring Eddie on to try and stretch the pitch, and we didn't have a chance to see how it worked. It's like saying, would we have been better against City in the first game if Xhaka played properly? But we only saw 30 seconds, so we didn't get a chance to see. So it's hard to base on it.
Yeah.
It's one of them. I can give an answer yes or no, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Oh, sorry, I just opened a bottle of Stella.
Yeah.
The lid landed on the microphone.
Not Eddie again. MAA Gunner again. Since Eddie is banned, do you think we'll play Aubameyang through the middle? I don't know. Just go for the next game for now, which is Tottenham.
Yeah, Arteta was asked that question in the press conference, and he avoided it as well. So, we've got lots of options. We'll see who's available.
This is, I don't think we have. I think he will, because we've got no options. Lacazette is not the fittest, and he played a hard 60 minutes or 70 minutes, however long it was yesterday. It wasn't a stroll in the park. He worked his nuts off. Actually, I think it was one of his best games for a long
He's looking fantastic, isn't he? If he could put the ball in the back of the net,
this is my issue with him. It's always been my issue with him, that you can't rely on score. But actually, as an all-round game, I thought yesterday was his best game in a while. But it was a very hard game, and
he's holding the ball up well. He's linking really well. I think he's getting into positions to score goals, which he wasn't doing. He's picking the ball up deep when he needs to. I think he's been exceptional since the restart.
I wouldn't say since the restart. I think it was just that game and 10 minutes against Wolves, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think he's physically fit enough to play another hard 60 or 70 minutes against Tottenham. So then that leaves no other option. He's not going to play. He's not going to start Balogun, and that's it. We haven't got anyone else. So I personally think he's going to have to start Aubameyang through the middle due to a lack of options. And if he doesn't start him there, he'll end up there at some point, because Lacazette ain't going to do 90. Schwinn, any thoughts?
Ditto. I mean, if we don't see Alba play through the middle this game, then we'll never see him play through the middle. I mean, this is his chance to probably start Pepe and Saka on either side of him, and let him play there.
Well, Swin, there's an interesting thing you said there. So you would play Pepe, who's been a relatively lightweight sort of in and out player for us in his first season. No problems with him, love him. But would you think that Tottenham is the right game for him? A tough North London derby?
I think so, because he can run at players, right? And on the break, he can be a menace. He can at least get into positions from where he can find players in the box. And if you have someone like Aubameyang chasing through the middle, then there is scope there. I'm not saying that it's the perfect combination of players up there, but I completely agree with Tony that I don't think Lacazette has it in him to stretch out another tough 60, 70 minutes. So that's what I would go with.
So, no, but you're saying that. No, hang on. Look, I was just going to let that go. But you can't say Lacazette ain't going to be able to do another tough 60 minutes when we just said Pepe couldn't do 10. So you want Pepe in who couldn't do 10
I never
minutes.
I never said that Pepe couldn't do 10.
So but you reckon he can?
News.
So he hasn't played for 2 weeks. He can go and do a North London derby and Lacazette's not fit enough.
Well, that's what I would start with, and I'd see how he goes. I mean, of course, I don't have eyes into the training facility, so.
Do you also sort of think that you said we'll be able to play on the break? Do you think playing against Jose Mourinho's Tottenham that we will have to play on the break? Because it seems to me that they're playing very much as a counter-attacking side these days. Do you think that it will be not a game where we want some creative players? I'm all for Pepe. I like him. I think he's a terrific player, and I hope he does play. But I don't really see that it's going to be a game that we're going to be a counter-attacking force. I think Spurs have been setting up under Mourinho to just sit back and defend.
Yeah, but it's also a derby and it'll be charged. So there will be moments in which we'll be counter-attacking. I'm not saying that it'll be a low block and we'll just be trying to hit them and find them narrow spaces. But there will be times where we'll be trying to take the game to them when they've just given up the ball in our half. And I think we can use him there.
Tony?
For me, obviously not the first name on the team sheet because of some of the other players we've got, but for me, he is one of the most automatic starters in that game. If they do defend deep, he's our best player at beating people in a tight space in the box. He can open his body and score as he did against West Ham and Brighton. He arrives at the back post better than anyone else, especially if you're going to play Saka on the left and Aubameyang through the middle. And Ben Davies isn't very quick. And for all the people that don't rate Pepe, and I don't agree, but I can half understand where they're coming from, one thing you can't deny is the guy is fucking fast. And Ben Davies isn't. So
yeah, and I think, isn't the stat, he's got 8 goals, 8 assists or something?
Yeah.
Since he's in all competitions, I guess that is. That's not a bad return for your first season, even if you do cost 75 million. I think he's got better and better as the season's gone on. Yeah,
I agree. As I said, for me, I think, again, fitness allowing, we don't know, but for me, it's a very easy pick to start him. But yeah. I'll go on to the next question. Hakon Larsson, Eddie's red card, perfect use of VAR or the absolute wrong way of looking at an incident like that? I'll just go first. I'm somewhere in between. I think VAR done the right job because I do think it was a red card. I don't like that VAR looks at everything for so long in such slow motion, which is going to make everything look... It makes it look like it was mistimed by an hour when really it was a millisecond. But can you argue when it comes to the right decision? Probably not. For me, the right decision. I know Schwinn doesn't agree. Either of you?
For me, just, I'd enjoy the game still without VAR. Just simple as that. I know it's here to stay. I just prefer the game without it. We just have to wear the odd mistake.
Schwinn?
Yeah, no, I've already said my bit on that.
Cool. Thoughts on Malang Sarr from Nice? Rumours we've offered him a contract. I don't know anything about him. This is Hakon Larsson, but he's also airing my opinions, essentially. He's out of contract from Nice, left-sided centre-back, can play left-back. My knowledge of him is now over. I don't know if any of you have
Well, I can just add that before you mentioned it, I didn't know anything about him, and now I know as much as you.
Yeah. Schwinn?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong podcast to ask that. I don't think.
Not a very well podcast on French football.
So little French football, unless maybe I watch PSG occasionally. But anyway, next question. Hakon Larsson, why didn't VAR look at the Vardy kick on Mustafi? Because they both fell and he thought his leg was natural, or because Vardy seemed to regret it almost instantly. I think that's the sort of actions that also should send players off for. Sneaky and ugly by Vardy, it gets worse every time I see it. This is where I agree. I think it gets worse every time you see it, and which is why I think if VAR done its standard micromanagement, it's a very, very easy red card. Do you want to just skip it? Because we both
we've covered that in quite some depth, I think.
Yeah. MAA Gunner, will Ozil ever play again?
Doubt it.
Shrin?
Yeah, not for us. Maybe. Never say never, but
I think he will. MAA Gunner, was it just me, or did the Torreira substitution trigger some sort of PTSD from when Emery used to play him at 10? He's seen this somewhere else, because I saw someone else write it on Twitter and then he wrote it in the group instantly. My answer is no. Like, just by him coming on the pitch, I don't get scared of him playing 10. I don't know where this comment's come from.
But Torreira is another one that is in the... I mean, I know he's coming back from an injury, but I'm not sure how much Arteta thinks of him. I'm not sure, because he is just coming back from an injury, but he hasn't felt like he's involved in too much.
You know, it's strange, because I have the same feeling, and I saw this on Twitter the other day. Pre-injury, which obviously against Portsmouth, he started, I think, the 4 or 5 games in a row before that. But it's strange, because I don't know what it is. I thought the same as you, that he's not really sort of fancied him, and it sort of coincided. I think he went out as Dani Ceballos came in. And there was always that opinion, he doesn't really fancy Ceballos. Now it's because Ceballos is playing, he doesn't really fancy Torreira.
Yeah.
I said it, I don't know, he played 4 in a row or 5 in a row, whatever it was before that. So,
Shrin?
Just the injury, isn't it? I think he's just sort of getting back, and it's sort of a meritocratic period that the club is going through. That's why we're seeing so many young players get some time. So maybe it's just trying to see the season off in the best way possible. And as Tony said at the top of the show, that summer is the reset. So once the season ends, then it's a clean slate. I do think he has a future at the club. I don't have a doubt in that in my mind, to be honest. So I think
my only question is if he wants to be there.
I think that's sort of, Tony, I think where I'm getting my bit that Arteta doesn't fancy him. You know, it's all about everyone on the boat. And if you've got a player that, whether it's through him or through his agent, we hear constant rumours that he wants to go back to Italy. And, you know, I think if that's true, then I think Arteta's that's where I think I'm getting it from. I think Arteta's thinking he's not a player that's getting on board. So maybe that's where I'm getting my feeling he doesn't like him. It might just be purely because he's not injured, or because maybe he's not good enough.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, look, the one thing I will say, though, to give Arteta credit, is he has given everyone a chance. I can't think of anyone who's not been played at all.
Yeah, it's a clean slate, hasn't he? Look, Mustafi's played pretty much every game. Ozil played his first half a dozen games, didn't he? They've all been given a chance.
Yeah. Hakon Larsson again. Why are so many people against selling Guendouzi just because he can be a star? The can is in capitals. If Guendouzi has an attitude problem, fuck him off. We only see 5% of how the player is, and maybe not even that. I completely agree. I also don't think he can be a star, but most people disagree with me on that. I know we spoke about him earlier, so anything to add?
No, I think, we've talked about Guendouzi. I love him. Most people hate him,
Shrin?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like the kid. I think he brings some things to the table that we've missed, the fight and something refreshing in the midfield. But if he's got an attitude problem, then fuck him off.
It is true. I mean, you can't have a bad apple in that. It's something that we're all fighting together. I'm loving watching Arsenal at the moment. I'm loving watching the spirit, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the effort. They all. Have you noticed these drinks breaks, which is another nonsense in the pissing down rain in England, where they stop to have a fucking glass of water? But you watch Arteta come out, and they're all standing around listening to him. They're all engaged. And you look at some of the other teams, and they're all just stopping, having a drink, and the manager might be talking to 1 or 2 players. And I just feel there's a sense of that they have all bought in. And if Guendouzi hasn't bought in, then much as I love him, much as I think it would be so nice to turn him around, because I really do think he's a real talent. If he's not going to buy into the manager, then he's got to go.
Yeah. Do you know what's a strange one with him? As I said, I don't rate him anywhere near as highly as most other people, but I could comfortably see him go to a good team, and he'll be that player. As soon as he has a good game, everyone will be like, "Oh, look, they sold him." And a bit like Chamberlain was at first, as soon as he had one good game, it was like, oh, look, see, Arsenal have let another one go. And it doesn't mean they're good. It's just fucking Arsenal fans are more.
Yeah, we haven't met. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say to those Arsenal fans, watch Alex Iwobi, Theo Walcott. We've made some good decisions as well.
Oh, I think Chamberlain was a good decision, and look, I like
that. Yeah. No, absolutely. I was adding to that.
Fans, as soon as someone has a good game that we've sold, it's like, oh, fucking Arsenal again.
Moving on, Theo Walcott, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Alex Iwobi, with the benefit now of hindsight, were all really good deals. Like 80 million for, really good deals.
Sugar Daddy Clay. Gutted to have been robbed of 2 points. Thought he played very well in the first half. I'm interested to hear from Tony on Laka. I thought he played well and should have had a goal. Header was off target. It wasn't. But he was getting into the box at least. How many points?
How many what, sorry?
Yeah, we lost you, Tony.
Oh, we've lost Tony. Have you got a question there by any chance, Shwin?
Nope.
Or Tony joined back in? Yeah, if you can do that, because I'm sure Tony will join back in. In theory, he's still there, but maybe his laptop's crashed. And maybe it's just because he was about to slag off Lacazette and I've cut him off.
He should have scored 2 goals yesterday, not just.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The header, point blank range, he's just got to get that down, and that's a goal. But it was a great move, and you've got to understand that a forward, to make that forward run, to get in that position, that's what you want your forwards to do. They will miss chances. Sometimes you just need one to go in off your backside and he'll start scoring again. But his overall work rate, his overall effort was just top, really top draw.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah, we're just talking about Lacazette still. I mean, I felt he had a good game yesterday, should have scored 2 goals, of course. But I also have a feeling, like, in moments he tends to overcomplicate things. There were a couple of occasions where Saka made some brilliant runs, and at that point in the game, Soyuncu was really struggling positionally in terms of Saka's pace. He wasn't sure whether he should follow Bellerin or get on Saka. And I think Lacazette just held the ball for too long, on certain occasions, and that at the end of the day, that did cost us under the chance and possibly more points. I don't know whether it's fitness related. I don't know what the reason is, but I'm never completely satisfied with his performance like I am with Aubameyang or even with Saka for that matter.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know when I got cut off, so I'll finish what I was saying. You just, as I said, I thought it was one of his best games for ages, but I can't bear having a number 9 that they go through on goal and I don't think they're going to score. And that's what I get. With Lacazette, I don't think goal until the ball goes in the net. Whereas you see, even Lacazette, with Aubameyang's goal, he was cheering before the ball even got to Aubameyang. He was celebrating. With Lacazette, you don't cheer until that ball hits the back of the net, and no matter what the chance is. And for me, we're not good enough. You can maybe argue that's the case with Firmino, although he doesn't actually miss many chances. He's just not in the box. But we're not at a good enough level where we've got 50, 60 goals around him where we can deal with a striker that you just can't trust to score goals. It makes it for me very difficult to like him because I just can't trust he's going to score. But the all-round performance, I can't fault. I think maybe he takes too many touches at times, but he's always done that. But he protects the ball well. At least he's not losing it when he takes too many touches. But yeah, just for me, I just find it very hard to get behind someone who I'm not confident in him scoring when they've got a chance. I mean, that header is actually a disgusting effort. Like, go down, it goes in, go back across the goal, it goes in. To have a keeper catch it, it's almost fucking disrespectful. Like, that is so poor. But anyway, I think everyone...
Great ball, though. I never knew Hector Bellerin had that in his locker.
I don't think there's a question on Hector. I thought for the first 15 minutes, he was fucking horrendous, and I was losing my mind, and maybe it's a bit of bias because I don't rate him anyway, but I was losing my mind. And then after 15 or 20 minutes, he turned into Cafu. He was fucking excellent for the next sort of 40 or odd minutes, and then the whole team sort of fell apart at the end.
I mean, this is where I think we've had a whole season or a whole lifetime of making up our minds over players, and Arteta's given them all a clean slate, and I don't believe that our fan base has. I thought Saka, what was the game against Wolves, until he scored that volley, he was having a disaster of a game. You know,
It's his worst game for us.
Sorry?
I think it's his worst game for us.
You know, so he's had a terrible game, but he's from the academy. He's one of our own. He's had a good season. We just ignore it. You know, he scored a goal. It's just ignore it. Lacazette, he's just a cam whatever he does. You know, you just said it was his best game for the club, and you're still slagging him off. I mean, I'm not you picking on you particularly, Tony, here on this. It's just that I think we've had a break. We've had 3 months off. It's like a new season. And we're watching players. I'm watching these players for the first time, and there is not a single player on that side I'm unhappy with. Not a single player.
I have a few. Sorry, I'll get back to the questions. Where is it? That one. What players do you want to see leave this summer, and what players do you think will leave? So that's Hakon.
Sorry, can we go back to the last question? We never finished that, did we? How many points from the last 2 games? From the next 2 games, sorry.
Yeah, no, we didn't finish that. It's Tottenham and Liverpool, isn't it?
Oh boy.
What was the question? Sorry, have I missed that somewhere?
How many points will we get from the next 2 games, which is
6.
Tottenham away, Liverpool home?
4.
3.
Liverpool on the beach, Tottenham is shit.
Yeah, I think Liverpool are going for the points record. They make a couple of changes, but that's never everyone. As I watch now, they're 2-1 up against Brighton and bringing on Mane and Fabinho. I mean, life ain't too bad for them.
Yeah, Trent's still drunk, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So we'll be all right.
Robertson will want to play against Tierney. Like, not directly against him, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. What players do you want to see leave this summer, and what players do you think will leave or / be sold?
Such a big question, and we've done an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, Guendouzi's out the door, and then Socrates, I'd say. Beyond that, I don't know. I suspect Lacazette will go, but I wouldn't be putting my house on it. I think that's probably about it.
Ceballos? I know we sort of touched on it
I don't
earlier.
even count Stowen because it's a loan, but I think we probably won't keep him.
Mkhitaryan, El Neni.
He's gone.
Mickey's already gone. El Neni, yeah. I mean, I think they're talking about raising the money to keep him, but there's absolutely no money in Turkish football at the moment. But he won't be there.
Yeah, keep everyone else. They've earned it. All earned it.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it looks like Holding's probably going to be out the door. I personally wouldn't, but
do you know what? But maybe with Holding, maybe it is just because he's been out for a long time with injury, as has Bellerin. Bellerin seems to have been eased back in a little bit more through necessity. Maybe Holding just is really struggling at the moment after such a long time out. You know, maybe next season we'll see him back in the fold.
I just thought it was
strange to let him go.
Huh? Yeah, I agree. I just
let him
thought
go.
it was strange that he was man of the match against Southampton, and then I could understand not starting against Sheffield United because of the fitness thing you've just said. And then we've got Norwich at home, which is pretty much a procession. You go there and get it done. You know you're going to win, and it's pretty much an easy game defensively as well. They don't score goals, and he wasn't included. And then you can say, against Wolves, okay, they're a better team, so you might not want to include him. But when he's just missed the last 2 games, I don't think you can sort of blame fitness anymore. I hope it is, because as I definitely think there's a player in there, and again, I know a lot of people don't, but I think there's a player in there, and I hope we can find it. Sorry, my phone keeps locking. But Ballwinder, Balvinder. His name better than me.
No, I think it's right. It's Ballwinder we decided, wasn't
it? Yeah. The challenge was reckless, in fact, more irresponsible of what the team is aiming at. If with one player down and just 15 minutes left, we can't protect our lead, then it speaks volumes about the bigger defect in our team. Champions League, mathematically impossible in it.
For a start, just one more thing. I think if it was Lacazette who had made that challenge, you'd have all had him in the up against the wall and been shot. Because it's Eddie, because it's through the academy, because he's one of our own, we all just say, it was harsh. It was a red card all day long, and it was an experience, and he'll hopefully learn from it.
I don't look against a team that were third pre-match, maybe still third now. I don't know if that draw took them back above Chelsea or not. I don't think not being able to hold out when you're on the ropes for 15 minutes with 10 men with no out ball, with the only attacker who's absolutely fucked, shows a sign of where we are. I think there's a lot of things that show signs of where we are. I don't think that's one of them. And to be honest, someone said this to me yesterday, and I half agree. I actually think VAR taking so long over their goal, even though I think it got the wrong decision in the end, has actually helped us. Because I think if that goal gets given and we kick off straight away, I think they probably win the game. Because, well, just I don't know, I'm basing it on old Arsenal, but you concede one, your back's against the ropes, and Arsenal tend to crumble. But yeah, I don't think that shows where we are in the game. But as we've said the whole podcast through, I think it was a red card. Anything to add, Shrin?
Let's not forget Leicester are a good team. I mean, they struggled after the first 15 minutes when they were really taking the game to us, but they're a good team. And the table shows that. So I'm not trying to ease the pain of the result from yesterday, but I think to sort of move focus from our performance yesterday and just look at the result is a bit harsh on the performance and to the players and the staff, because I was very happy with what I saw, and I think it gives us confidence to the fan base for what's left. So I think that may be a bit reactionary. I'm not sure when the question came in, but it feels a bit reactionary.
No, only 6 hours ago, 3:00 today.
Well, fair enough.
So just to add, I don't think Champions League is mathematically impossible, but it's not going to happen. Slightly off topic, and then we're going to go back on topic, but I can't be asked to skip questions. Who is the most overrated player in the Premier League? I had this conversation the other day.
Oof.
Any thoughts?
Right now or all time?
Yeah. Currently playing.
Don't know. Need some time to think about that one.
Yeah, head scratcher.
Harry Kane. Really, I watch him. He shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots, scores, shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots. Average player. Going to be a big fat old boy in about 5 years' time. There you go.
The conversation I was having the other day was after the Wolves game. We've been linked with him a lot. Barring scoring from 30 yards 5 times a season, Ruben Neves does absolutely fuck all at all times. But because his goals look good, because they go barring in from 50 yards out all the time, people go fucking crazy about him. I've seen people go, he's much better than Xhaka, we should get him instead of Xhaka. I don't care how much people like Xhaka. Fuck off. Neves does nothing apart from score a couple of free kicks. So, yeah, that's my answer. And nothing, Shrin?
No, I'm still drawing blanks. I have an answer for all time. It just came to my mind as soon as you asked the question, but now,
you might as well get the all time out of it.
Yeah, this might be a bit harsh, but Peter Cech.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Fair enough.
I mean, at Arsenal maybe, but at Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, he had a solid defense in front of him that really helped.
David Luiz.
David Luiz is not overrated.
No. David Luiz was part of that defence that was in front of him.
No, well, I'm talking his heyday when there was John Terry playing, what was it, Ricardo Carvalho, I think, playing in front of him.
But yeah. Next question, Tony Coleman. We're getting late.
MAA Gunner, would you give Mustafi a new contract? He currently has a year left and is on about 80 to 90k a week before the wage cut.
Yes, I would, absolutely, because otherwise he's going to sit there for a year and then leave on a free, because we've fucked his career up and he's fucked his career up, and nobody's going to offer the money we can get for him. Sign him on a new deal on a not improved contract, same sort of money, and then hopefully he continues to play well. He then becomes a saleable asset or a great player for Arsenal Football Club.
Shrin?
Say that again. What's the question?
Would you give Mustafi a new contract?
What's that?
Would you give Mustafi a new contract?
Oh, Jesus. No. I'm sorry. No, I couldn't. For me,
Yeah, for me, the answer is yeah. Look, Arteta wants him and is playing him every week. And let's be honest, he's done well, barring the mistake against Chelsea. I think he's done well in every game for Arteta. Crazy, because if you'd have asked this question after the Chelsea game, I think the answers from 100% of people would have been no. And if you ask it now, yeah, I'd imagine now it'd be more yes than no. Look, I'm backing the manager. The manager wants him. The manager plays him. And he's been quite good. It's the same sort of reason as I agreed with Luiz. One, I don't think he's as bad as everyone else does. And secondly, the manager wants him. And we can't all say, oh, yeah, we've got faith in the manager, believe in everything he does. And then he says, oh, I want Mustafi. And you go, oh, no, you're wrong. Like, we either back him or we don't. And
personally speaking, I back the manager. And I'm sure Arteta knows way more about the situation than I do. But I can still disagree with him. And feel that this is what I would do in his place if I were. But having been through the journey with Mustafi, I just cannot bring myself to it. I've seen too much. I've been tainted, scarred, been vivisected by his performances sometimes, and I cannot go through that. But I will, because I'm an Arsenal fan.
Well, the most Arsenal thing is going to happen. We're not going to sign on a new deal. He's going to be excellent in the first 3 months of next season. Then we're going to be trying to sign him, and he'll go on a free, having been good for 4 months of his Arsenal career.
Yeah.
It's just Arsenal. Who's this? Sorry, PM.
There's still more questions. Blimey, it's been busy today. Good.
Yeah. PM Donegal, Saka, Uber Pepe forward line this weekend. Yes for me.
Yes for me.
I was at, and I know it's a yes from Schwinn. I actually was going to have a conversation about Saka, but we've gone on for quite a while. He's one of them weird players that his final delivery is excellent, and he's obviously a good player. But when you look at individual attributes, there's nothing that you can. Well, there's not many things that you go. He's absolutely fantastic at that. Like, he's quick without being like really, really Pepe Walcott quick. As I said, his delivery is crazy. His decision making is good. I remember EA Sports had a problem with Thomas Muller a few years ago because they had to rate him high because he's very good, but he's actually not very good at anything.
Yeah. If I can just add to that, Tone, I mean, I think his number one asset is his calmness. He seems to see that pass and he doesn't panic. You know, I mean, yesterday was a great example where that he sort of took in that whole situation almost in slow motion, and whereas as such a young player, you would see so many snatch a shot, or he looked up and he curled a little ball into Aubameyang. You know, it was just calmness. I think that's his biggest asset.
I actually called him a cunt as he passed that ball because wrongly I thought he snatched it because obviously, who is it? The defender went down, Evans, and I was like, you've got the freedom of the area, just run at the goal. And then obviously he's not. And I was like, no, what are you doing? And then Aubameyang tucks it in and was like, oh yeah.
And do you know what? That's the other thing I just want to say there as well. You say Johnny Evans fell down. He put him on his arse. His quick feet just put him on his arse, which gave him that time.
Mind you, he didn't have to do enough to put him on his ass. He just sort of fell apart in that moment.
Well, Evans went inside and Saka didn't, basically. But yeah, it's just one of them things with Saka. I look at him and there's going to be frustrating times with him where
he's young. Yeah.
There was almost one yesterday. He ran down the blind alley. I think it might have been the disallowed goal. He ran down the blind alley, lost the ball, and if it wasn't that, it was another thing that they got a chance from. And I saw one or two people go, Saka's had too many touches there. And people are just saying it now, like, you got to realise them things are going to happen, and don't get on his back too much when they do.
Yeah.
Last question from Titan. Can Nelson make it through as a regular in our starting lineup for next season? It's a no from me, although I do think he's improved this season.
It's the same as almost with Saka, and that he's a very young kid who's learning his trade, and playing now under a good manager, we will see. I don't know, from a bit like you, Tony, what I've seen so far, maybe not, but if he's got it in him to improve, he's in the right environment. I don't expect him to be a regular, but I do expect to see him play a lot more.
Yeah, my answer's about regular because I can't see him getting in ahead of Pepe. If Aubameyang stays and Saka, Martinelli, but I don't think he's better than any of them. So you look across the front line and then if Lacazette stays, that makes him sixth. Nelson sits in line to start across that front line. So.
No, but with European football, we'll probably play 60 games and he'll probably play quite a lot of football next year. So we'll see a bit more, a bit like Emil Smith Rowe, players like that, doing very well at Huddersfield. Are they good enough? We'll find out in the next 12 months.
Yeah. Schwinn?
Yeah, with Nelson, I'm not sure. I mean, his physicality has always been a question, and we've spoken about that ever since he played against United at Old Trafford. I'd like to see him given a chance, and I think seeing around the club, he will have a look that his peers, his contemporaries are getting a chance, and they're taking it, and that might light a fire under his belly and really push him. So I think there's a player in there, but I think we're a bit away from that. I don't think we're very close to sort of unpacking what he has to offer. And what he has to offer will eventually be determined by his hard work. So I'd like to give him a chance, let him be around the club for another year without sending him out on loan, and see what he makes of that.
Yeah, he's another one that was the timing of COVID has been not good for him, because he was looking, probably his best spell in an Arsenal shirt was pre-COVID. I mean, I know it's Portsmouth and I know it's a cup game, but he was phenomenal. He was the best player on the pitch by a mile, and we had some decent players playing. It wasn't like he was the best of an under-18s team. He was the best on the pitch, and there was the likes of Torreira, Ceballos. I think Granit played, and Socrates played, and then Nelson was excellent. So I think lockdown's been a bit unfortunate for him, but he, for me, I just can't see him displacing the others. So I can't see him breaking into as a starter next season, which was the question. But yeah, that's it. That's all she wrote in terms of questions.
Blimey, thank God for that. No, thank you everyone for sending those in. It does make it very easy to do the show, and we can have some things to talk about. I've got a couple of really quick ones, because we're so late. They were things to discuss, but just yes or no for me from either. Would you take qualification for Champions League football or win the FA Cup?
That's not a yes or no question.
It's very good. Sorry, what I meant was a one-word answer. Very well done, Schwinn. I was just thinking how beautiful it was to hear your eloquent voice once again on the podcast, and then you tried to stab me in the back. You're a nasty, mean individual. I'm old. I forget my words.
I'll take Champions League any day. I'll take Champions League. I know you hate that answer, but I'll take Champions League.
Tony?
Yeah, you're going to get the answer you hate from me as well.
Champions League? Oh, no, I think I've written off the Champions League, so it's easy.
Oh, no, we're not going to get it. Yeah, we're not going to get it.
No. So I think in my head I've written it off. So, and to be honest, this is the first time I may actually agree and say Champions League over the FA Cup, purely because in an empty stadium, no matter how much they turn up the volume on the crowd noise, it's not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same. But I still would like to win it. One more very, very quick question, something I saw in the press in the last couple of weeks. This is a yes or no question. Santi Cazorla is rumoured to be coming back to the club for a year and then maybe going to coaching. Would you welcome him back, yes or no?
With open arms.
That's not a one-word answer.
Go fuck yourself, Darren.
Tony?
I think it's the easiest yes I've ever given.
Yeah, me too. We all agree there. Yeah, I got 3 yeses. Look, let's wrap this up. Look, it's been going on for an hour and 36 minutes. That's far too long for a podcast, in my opinion, but it's been great. Schwinn, honestly, lovely talking to you again, mate. Really, haven't heard from you since you moved to the country that I live in. You miserable bastard. But it really is nice to talk to you again. And Tony, it's been a real lot of fun catching up again. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Good to be back. We've got Tottenham, big North London derby on Sunday. Are we going to win it?
10-0.
It's going to be 5-0, Schwinn. 5-0. Don't be ridiculous.
I'm just taking a leaf out of Tony's book on this one.
Yeah, I mean, that was the answer you was going to get from me. So. Yeah.
I fancy it. 5-0. Okay. All right. Well, we will be doing the next podcast, I guess. Is Tez back next week? Will I be on the bench for the next 5 months again? Will I be the Rob Holding of the what's this podcast called? Will I be the Rob Holding of the Clock In?
Well, I mean, that's probably why he was on the bench. And I don't think Rob Holding comes in and goes, "What team? Am I still at Bolton, or what's your name?" I think that might be a problem. I don't think he'd play if he'd done that.
Maybe I am the Guendouzi of the Arsenal India podcast. I nearly said I am the Guendouzi of the Clock End Talk podcast. I was on one earlier tonight, from Dial Square to Where, so you can catch me on that as well. Now, thanks for coming, Tony. Nice to talk to you.
No worries. Cheers.
And Swin, thanks, mate.
Pleasure. Glad to be back. And
is Tez back? Did I get an answer to that? Is Tez back next week?
No, I don't think so. I think he said he's away for 2 weeks.
So we'll see who's back. Maybe Addy or Sam or Liam. Swin, it'd be nice to have you back. Tony, I'm sure you'll be here and I'll be around. So we'll talk again this time next week.
Adios.
All right, cheers, guys.